Hi everyone, and welcome to this DCC webinar. Today's session is going to last about half an hour, and you'll get to hear about all the recent updates and new features that have been developed within the DCC's DMPonline tool. Sarah Jones, who works with the DCC, will be presenting today, and she's going to talk for about 20 minutes and give you a real run-through of all the new functionality that's been put into the tool. And we'll leave about 10 minutes for questions at the end. So if you do have any questions, please put it into the chat box. You'll see at the left-hand side of your screen you have the option to put in any questions there. And we'll collate those questions and put them to Sarah at the end of the session. We've got a few that we've received through email already, but any others, just please add it in there and we'll get to them at the end of the session. At the end of the session, we will be making all of the slides and the recording available to you, and you can feel free to share that with any colleagues that weren't able to take part today. So we'll send you a link with the slides later on after the session. If you do have the chance, we'll also be directing you to a feedback form at the end of the session. So if you don't mind taking a few minutes just to fill in a few tick boxes, that would be great. That'll really help us to improve the sessions as we go forward with the series. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Sarah Jones, and she'll give us a run-through of DMPonline and the recent updates and new functionality.
That's great. Thank you very much, Joy. So there are a couple of sections I'm going to cover today. I'm going to start off by telling you about the DMPonline roadmap. We released a roadmap a couple of months back to say what new functionality is coming throughout this year. And I want to walk you through those set of plans so that you know where we're heading. So the roadmap has 6 main kind of areas or themes that we're trying to address, and we're trying to do these in a balanced way across all the releases so that you get a bit of each of those improvements in each one. So what we did, we took stock of all the different feature requests that had come in and group those together, and there are a few kind of key areas that came out. So usability improvements, adding a life cycle to data management plans and some review functionality so that plans can be checked within institutions before being put forward. An API for systems integration, there was a lot of requests around that, and that's some work that we're just getting started on with JISC. Institutional enhancements to help you brand the tool and kind of tie that in as an institutional service, some locale-aware support, and then just routine maintenance, bug fixes. So what I want to do is walk through each of these sections so that you know the kinds of improvements that are coming. So in terms of usability improvements, when we had our first user group session, we ran through the ideas for the roadmap, and usability improvements were the top priority for the people within the user group. And that was really with the rationale that we want the tool to be as easy as possible for end researchers to be using. So one of the features that we've just recently added is a comments feature. This is to help researchers collaborate when they're co-writing the plans, so they're able to leave notes and pointers for one another, ask them to check certain things in that response. We're also planning to rethink the layout and the presentation of the guidance. We found that with the number of people customizing the tool now, there's often a lot of information that's being presented to researchers, guidance from their funder and their institution, potentially from their school or their discipline as well. So we want to be able to make sure the text boxes, the answer boxes still have primacy of place, and it's easier for researchers to focus their effort. They can choose to display and hide options in a much more flexible way rather than pulling in all the guidance and then it's there for good. We're also looking at adding multiple suggested answers. We've had some requests to be able to have suggested answers, at a school level rather than just one per institution. And we'll be thinking about revisiting the Create Plan Wizard, which is how users define what template and guidance they're going to get, just to make sure that's intuitive for end users and it's clear when there is support from the institution. In terms of the life cycle and review, what we're wanting to do here is essentially add a lifecycle concept to the tool so that it's easier to manage those transitions. So when researchers are maybe moving from an initial plan that they do at the grant application stage to a full plan that's kind of something that they write during the project, it's easier to handle that transition and also to be clear what the state of a plan is at any given point. Is it a draft plan? Is it something that's been reviewed and revised? Is it something that's completed or has been submitted to a funder or to an institution? And that's really important because institutions are increasingly wanting access to the content of the plans, and we want to make sure that that access is provided at a point that researchers are happy with. So not necessarily to all their draft content, it's, you know, once a plan's ready for the institution to view it. And also from an institutional perspective, you want to make sure that any stats or information you're pulling from the tool is based on actual plans. It's not on any drafts or tests. The other thing we're planning to do here is adding review options, and this is so that institutions or funders are able to peer review data management plans. What we've seen happening is that some institutions offer this as a service. They're willing to provide feedback and comment on the plan, and many are already using the tool to do that. They're just using the share plan feature. But what we want to do is add some additional functionality so that it's a much smoother, that researchers, for example, are able to flag that they would like a review, and the tool will automatically alert the institutional administrators to that. And also that when comments are left by a reviewer, it's clear that they're from a reviewer and there's a process to be able to handle those, to accept them or to flag that the changes have been made. We're just starting on some work on an API for systems integration. We've been given a bit of additional funding from JISC for this, which is great because it means we're able to deliver a bit more work in a shorter time frame. The first thing we'll be doing around this is determining what level of API is appropriate for the community. So we're planning to set up a user group meeting in June for that. So if you're interested in API work, by all means, do let us know. There have been a number of kind of use cases put forward for the API. So institutions, for example, want to be able to mine the content of plans, to be able to generate statistics to inform their service provision. They're wanting to integrate DMPonline with other institutional services like research information management systems, perhaps pull metadata from DMPonline to feed into repositories. And another aspect of work, which is one that JISC is looking at in particular, is having some form of registry or library of data management plans so that we're able to export content out of DMPonline into a kind of collection. So what we're doing with JISC, we're going to work initially on one use case, and I think we'll probably do something around the statistic because that's quite a common request that we have, and then we'll be able to flesh out other use cases as we move forward. There have been a number of requests for institutional enhancements. This goes all the way from very basic branding, the ability to add a logo, add links to core institutional services, like if you've got a help desk, to things like being able to customize the administrative data that's being captured in DMPonline. We have a section for plan details, and at the moment that's a core set of fields that's defined within the tool. We want that to be customizable by institutions so that you can tie that together with the kind of administrative information you're collecting in other systems and link those. The key thing here is being able to set alerts so that depending on the answer that a researcher might give to a particular question, like the volume of storage that they're collecting, or if they have specific data security issues, you're able to trigger an alert so that that contacts institutional administrators. And we've been getting a lot of international interest in DMPonline. So we're also looking at locale aware support, and here we're thinking about being able to customize the appearance and the tool based on the user's context. So There's already a Spanish translation of DMPonline. This is the kind of thing that we want to be able to pull into the main instance and provide so that we're able to offer up that Spanish version, for example, for any users in Spain. So it's not just about the languages, it's about presenting different options. So perhaps a different organizational list when users are registering, or different research funders based on the location and the context that that user's based in. And the way we're thinking of doing this is having custom URLs, so we're able to specify that locale aware content and direct people to that. There's also a lot of active maintenance, and this is a large part of our work. People will contact us, obviously, if they come across bugs, but often with feature requests, additional ideas they have for enhancing the tool. We're constantly trying to improve the documentation so it's easier for others to pick up on the tool and use that. And we've recently set up a user group so it's easier for people to feed in ideas about the tool and get involved in our work. So we're doing a lot of work to communicate with the user group and with the wider developer and user community so we're best able to support you. So in terms of the roadmap, what we're doing, we're having a kind of bi-monthly release cycle. We've just pushed out a new release last week, and the next one will come in the middle of July. What we do with the release, we've been sharing a more detailed release plan with the user group for comments at the start of that cycle, so we're able to get feedback on the plans. And then once we push that out, there's a full delivery note which explains any new functionality and gives people all the information they need to see what's changed. You can find out more about the roadmap. We've got details on the tool. There's a page dedicated to the roadmap and what new features are coming and when. So what I want to look at now is some of the new functionality that's been added recently. And we did a webinar, it was kind of summer last year, so I'll flag a couple of things that have come in the interim as well in case you're not aware of those new features. So as I mentioned, we pushed out a new release just last week. One of the features to come in this was a comment feature, and this is to assist researchers when they're collaborating and co-authoring a plan. So you can see in the screen grab here, we have a question from NERC and the answer written in, and in the panel on the right hand side, there's now two tabs. There's one where the guidance is presented, and there's one where users are able to leave comments. Everyone can add comments. We have different kind of user roles within DMPonline. You can be owner of a plan, an editor, or a read-only, a kind of viewer to a plan. All of those people can leave comments. And the owners of a plan can also remove comments. So you can always edit and remove your own, but the owners can remove other people's comments just in case there's anything that's inappropriate to say and they want to remove comments. The comments are added per question, so you're able to leave notes on each response. And you can see here there's a few examples. It flags who's left the comment and when, and then you've got the various actions. When there are comments, there's a number in brackets so you can see how many comments have been left. We've also been improving the workflow and the guidance on signing in with institutional credentials. We found that sometimes researchers imagine that they can just use their existing credentials, not realizing that they have to create an account with DMPonline as well. What we do, we actually link those institutional credentials to the DMPonline account. And this is so that the account still exists even if researchers move on to different institutions. They can unlink their credentials and then use their new email address and their new credentials for the other institution. So we've improved the workflow. We've gone through that from each possibility, made sure it's more intuitive, improved the guidance, and we've also put out a guide with screen grabs so it's clear to researchers how to actually go about registering and linking to their institutional credentials, and if they need in the future to unlink so that they can move to a different institution. I mentioned about the international interest in DMPonline. We're thinking about how to internationalize the tool, and we've put out a paper with proposals for how to handle national versions or domain-specific versions. And these consider the range of features that need to be configured for any locale. So that can be things like the language in the user interface. I mentioned there's already a Spanish language version, there's a French language version coming too. May well be the language that's used within the templates. If funders have requirements in their own language or users are responding in their own language. You want to be able to set the dates and times for different contexts. There might be specific data format conventions like the currency or the way postal addresses are formatted in different contexts. Obviously, things like the organization list would be different in different contexts, and the range of funders that are offered. And one of the things we've had interest in is authentication in different contexts. Currently, the single sign-on we use is using Shibboleth, so it's just for the UK, but there are similar protocols in other areas. So that's something we could look at for different national versions. We're also looking at the mechanism by which users can select the required locale. You know, we could look at things like IP addresses and recommend, but there are issues that potentially there are different languages used in one context. You could have flags for different language versions, so users can select between that. One of the things we're recommending is having specific URLs, so having dmponline.dcc.ac.uk/ whatever the locale is, so NL for the Netherlands, or it may well be a domain-specific version like Elixir to have a life science version of the tool. So that's one way we could direct users to specific content. There are also technical considerations, such as standards that can be used, the information that we would need in the seed files. And we have a paper that pulls together all the proposals. We would welcome your feedback if you're thinking about how DMPonline could be used in different contexts. Since the last webinar we did, there have been other features that have been put out. I imagine most people are aware of the admin interface, but just in case not, I just wanted to flag that we do have an administrative interface to the tool, and this allows people to add their own templates. So a template for an institution, for example. It allows you to add your own guidance, and that can be both at an organizational level or for specific schools or disciplines. And you can look at what users there are within your organization, and this is where we would provide additional stats and information, the kind of intelligence that institutions are looking for. If you're wanting access to the admin interface, if you're wanting to customize a tool, please just drop us an email on dmponline.dcc.ac.uk and we can provide that for you. You can also filter your plan. This was a feature that was added by the University of Leeds because their administrators have access to a large number of plans, so they wanted to be able to organise and search them more effectively. So within the My Plans page, you can see this option to filter the plan, and you can, the little right-hand side allows you to adjust the settings, and you can see in the second screen grab here the range of options that you're able to pick, and that then allows you to filter by those different options. And another thing that Leeds added was formatting for PDF export. So you're able to select which kind of sections you want to include in the export. You can add a title to the plan if you want to rename it, and then you can decide what font to use. You can set the margins. Sometimes funders will have really specific requirements on this, which is why we wanted to allow the adjustment of those different settings. So the final thing I want to flag before we open this up to questions is how you can get involved in DMPonline. There is an increasing number of people using and customizing the tool, and we want to make it easier for that community to feed into our work and to collaborate with us. So the first thing to mention is user group that we've set up. This is really to help the community feed in ideas and direct the development of DMPonline. Really do welcome your feedback on the tool, what works and what doesn't, what the priorities are for you in terms of new features, so that we can ensure that the roadmap meets what you need. So we've established a user group. You can see the URL to join the listserv on here. We hold periodic meetings. We haven't done any webinars yet. That's something we do plan. But we've had face-to-face meetings where we've run through ideas and got feedback on those. And we're hoping to hold one specifically around the API and locale aware support, so we can check that the plans we have meet what you need. We're hoping, we've already got a number of kind of research data management coordinators, librarians, developers and administrators on that group, but we hope to do a bit more liaison and engagement to get more researcher and funder input, so that we're representing all the different stakeholders of DMPonline. We're very keen to collaborate with you as well, and specifically allow others to contribute to the code. I mentioned that a couple of features had been added by the University of Leeds. If you're interested in adding features, then by all means do speak to us. We're happy to work with you, because people have a lot of ideas about how we can develop DMPonline, and it's good to actually get a broader development community to feed into that, because there's a limited amount of resource we have within DCC. The source code for DMPonline is available under a GNU General Public License. It's the copyleft license, so if you're free to take the code and reuse it, but you're under obligation if you do extend it to share those extensions under the same conditions. It's effectively a share-alike license. So we ask that if you do make additions, please do let us know about that and share the code back. When we've done collaborations with groups like the University of Leeds, they've submitted pull requests to the DCC. We're going to be issuing some guidelines in this next release just to provide some guidance on how to format pull requests, how to collaborate with us. So look out for those if you're wanting to contribute to the code. And then the final thing to say is really just to ask you to tell us about your work. We found that a number of people either using the code or providing guidance in their context based on DMPonline or customizing the tool, and it's really useful for us to hear about your work and feed that back into the broader plans. So if you've been trialing the tool and you have feedback from researchers, please do let us know how it went, if there's any improvements that are needed, or if you have guidance on lessons you've had from customizing the tool or ways that you've introduced it and supported researchers with data management plans, please do feed that back. We've found at times that people have written local user guides. We've got one in German, for example, that's been written by Humboldt University. If you want to share those, we're very happy to publicize those through the DCC website, raise awareness, because if we get other kind of requests to use DMPonline in a German context, obviously that's something we can point them to. And we found, you might have seen recently, we had a guest blog post from the Software Sustainability Institute. They've taken DMPonline and done a version for software management plans. So it's useful if you're doing work like that. We're able to feed that back to the broader community and help to amplify the work you're doing. And it also helps us to show impact to help with sustainability of DMPonline. So as well as us letting you know our plans, please do share what you're doing with the tool too. So that's all I had to say about the recent developments and what's coming in the near future. You can follow information from the DCC on Twitter. We use the hashtag DMPonline, and that's what feeds our RSS feed as well. So by all means follow our news, and if you have any inquiries, do send us an email and speak to us about collaboration too. So thank you very much. I'll just pass back to Joy for questions.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sarah. You guys have been very busy for the last little while. I think it's really great to see that so much of the work has been driven by the community needs, and that you're really keen to keep that collaboration going. I've got a few questions that have come in. If there are any other questions, please go ahead and just add them into the chat box as we go through. We've got about 5 minutes left. But anything that we don't get to, you can email to us later. The first question is, if anybody does have suggestions for new functionality, how do they go about getting these added to the roadmap?
So there are a number of ways you can contact us. So obviously you can email in and speak to us about any suggestions. If you're on the user group, we're very keen for people to post ideas to the user group so that it's actually going out into a wider forum and not just coming to us as a kind of private conversation. So I would encourage people to join the user group and post ideas there, and then others can feed into those and they can evolve as a community. Or you can also, if you're a developer and you use GitHub, you can look at our plans on GitHub and add requests there. And what we'll do every 2 months when we've issued a new release, we then plan the next release. We have a kind of list all the project backlog, all the various requests that have come in, and we'll prioritize the main ones of those next release. So it will go onto the list and hopefully get in as soon as.
That's great. Perfect. I think that suggestion about using the user group is a good one, because I think in addition to keeping it all transparent and open, it'll help you to see if there's any areas for prioritization. So definitely that sounds like the way to go.
Yeah, I think that's really useful, because it's not just to decide what's important with the tool and what should come next. It's actually much better if we know that that's a request that would be beneficial to a lot of institutions or to a lot of end users, then that's something that clearly needs to take priority.
That's great. Perfect. I've got another 2 questions, and that should hopefully take us to the 12:30 mark. The next one is there a limit to the number of templates that any institution can create within DMPonline?
No, there's not. A lot of institutions have one main template that they use, but there isn't a limit. So if you want templates for different contexts, so for example, you want one that's specifically for PhD students as opposed to researchers on kind of core university work, then that's no problem. You can ask different sets of questions to different groups.
Okay, that's great. And I think with the thematic linking of the questions and themes, you should only have to do that once, and it can be reused in any number of templates. So that will hopefully make things easier.
So the way the guidance works in the tool, I mean, there are 2 ways of doing it. You can write guidance for any specific question, or you can write it by theme. And the idea of themes has really come up because of the UK context. We have a number of different funder requirements, and although they ask different questions, they're often addressing similar themes. So we've introduced themes into the tool so that universities or disciplines can write guidance once on a particular theme, like on storage or on standards for metadata, and that will apply across the different templates. It'll apply whenever a funder or an institution asks a question around storage or standards. So that it's kind of a labor-saving device so that it's easier to apply your guidance across all the templates. But you can do it by theme, or you can write guidance for each specific template.
Okay, that's great. That should help to save some time. Perfect. The last question we have is, if anybody needs any extra support, is it possible for the DCC to provide any sort of dedicated one-to-one support or consultancy?
Yeah, so often people will email into the DMPonline help desk, and we're able to address kind of, basic requirements. If you have questions about how to create a template or things that we can just do via email, that's no problem. Sometimes it can be difficult for institutions to know how to get started with data management planning. They might want some advice on things like what to include in a template, what's good practice, or how to roll this out to researchers, how to raise awareness of the requirement for data management plans. So if there's more in-depth support that you would like, if you'd like us to come out and help you create a template or come and run training courses or do advocacy work, then that's something we can do as well. We're just making our plans. We have a new round of funding from the end of July, and we do offer consultancy services, so that's something that we could do on a cost recovery basis.
Okay, that's great. So I guess in the meantime, if you do have any queries for any additional support, just get in touch with us using the email on the screen, and we'll go from there. I think that's all the questions that we've received. If anybody does have any other questions that you think of later, by all means, just get in touch with us and we'll deal with it offline. But at this point, I'd just like to say thank you very much to Sarah for a great overview of the new functionality. And it sounds like you guys have been very busy and will be very busy for the foreseeable future. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to join today. And we hope that you found it useful and got a little bit more of an understanding of what sort of functionality is now available to you. And please do keep in touch. If you do go ahead and start making use of any of this new functionality, we'd love to hear from you about how well it's working, if there are additional features that need to be considered in new versions of DMPonline. So please do make use of the user group and the various ways to contribute. And we will be sending out a link to the slides and the recording later on today. I know a couple of you had problems with the slides not being visible, so we do apologize for that. And we'll send out the link later on today. And again, if you do have a few minutes and you can take some time to fill in the feedback questionnaire, that would be greatly appreciated. So at this point, just thank you very much for taking part, and hope the rest of your week goes well. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.